What exactly do we do as speaking coaches, and when do you need one? Listen into my conversation with our lead speaking coach, Diane Diaz, on this episode of the Speaking Your Brand podcast. More and more women are making an impact by starting businesses, running for office, and speaking up for what matters. With my background as a TV political analyst, entrepreneur, and speaker, I interview and coach purpose-driven women to shape their brands, grow their companies, and become recognized as influencers in their field. This is Speaking Your Brand, your place to learn how to persuasively communicate your message to your audience. Hi there, and welcome to the Speaking Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Carol Cox, joined today by our lead speaking coach, Diane Diaz. Hi, Diane.
Hi, Carol.
Listeners will have heard you pretty recently. You interviewed two of our Thought Leader Academy clients, Janecke and Cindy Rowe, a few weeks ago. So for those of you listening, if you haven't listened to those episodes, definitely go check them out after you listen to this one. This episode here, we're going to be talking about what we do as speaking coaches and when you need one. So how do you know when is the point in time that you need someone like us, a speaking coach, to help you? So we're going to dive into that today. This is part of the series that we're doing that we're calling Wealth. So not only wealth in the terms of money and finance, but wealth in the terms of relationships, your networks, and really understanding yourself and all of the ideas, like the wealth of ideas you have and the wealth of stories and experience you have to bring to your talks. And so I know that like most of the clients who come to us, you want to be a better speaker, and that could mean getting better results from your speaking. So you want to get better leads and clients and sales when you go speak. You want to get paid to speak. You also want to leave the audience with that sense of having been inspired and motivated and transformed. So when you walk off the stage, you feel that sense that they really got something from it. Of course, some tangible things, but really understanding themselves in a different way or looking at the world in a different way. And so if you're new to the Speaking Your Brand podcast, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. Here at Speaking Your Brand, we help women entrepreneurs and professionals create their signature talks and their thought leadership platforms. Now, last week on this podcast, I talked about the speaker archetypes that we've identified, 4 different ones. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen and then take the quiz that we have so you can identify what your speaker archetype is. It's a really fun quiz. It only takes a few minutes. There's 10 questions, and then you can find out which of the 4. You can do that by going to speakingyourbrand.com/quiz. Again, that's speakingyourbrand.com/quiz. All right, Diane. So let's talk about like different types of coaches that are out there, including our own experience hiring coaches and working with coaches, because we definitely do that. So what are some of the different types of, maybe we call them specialty coaches. So there are lots of kind of more general business coaches, but even business coaches tend to specialize on a particular thing. They may be really good at marketing or team building or business models. I've hired different business coaches over the years based on their area of specialization, but then there's also specialty coaches. So Diane, what are some of the specialty coaches that come to mind?
Yes. And so outside of the business realm, someone might hire a health coach. Maybe they want to switch to more plant-based eating. So they hire a health coach for that, or maybe just to get healthier in general and sort of get their arms around what their nutrition looks like. And are they exercising the proper amount, eating the right things, and so on. They can also hire, if you are like me and maybe you're interested in some specific sport. I used to do triathlons. So if you have a big goal with regard to that thing that you do, you might hire a coach. It could be tennis. You hire a tennis coach. I did triathlons. I hired a triathlon coach to help me not die when I was doing the Ironman. So I felt like that was a good time to hire a coach because I didn't know, exactly how to go about training for an Ironman. So I hired a coach to help me with that. So health coaches, fitness coaches, there are mindset coaches too that help you shift your mindset, how you look at things, how you manage stress, literally coaches for everything.
Yes, definitely in the fitness and health realm. And then I know for some of the kind of more of the, like, even the business aspects, there are career coaches. So there's lots of coaches that will help you, say, if you want to shift careers or get a promotion in your career, they'll help you with. There's executive leadership coaches that work within companies and organizations and coach the leadership team there. And there are productivity coaches that will help you with productivity and time management. There are book coaches. I've worked with a couple of different book coaches over the past few years, and they will help you with everything from creating your book proposal if you want to get a contract with a traditional publisher to actually helping you keep motivated and accountable to writing the book itself, which hand raised, that definitely helps. And then, of course, there are speaking coaches, which we'll get into the specifics of that in just a moment. And so if we think about why Diane worked with the triathlete coach and why I have worked with book coaches and business coaches, and it's because we've had a specific need and a specific goal in mind. So we wanted to get something done that we knew that there was a specific result that we were looking for. And we knew that we didn't have all the answers. We didn't have the expertise, and we didn't know what we didn't know. And Diane, how did this come into play? Say, we're thinking about the triathlon coach that you hired.
I had done numerous triathlons. I had done half Ironman. So it's not that I had never done one. I had. However, going from half Ironman to doubling that distance requires, what I did know was it required completely different way of eating during the race to fuel yourself to do that distance. And it required a different level of training. And so could I research that on my own and do it? Sure, I could do that. Or to make my life easier and avoid potential pitfalls that might not only make it harder to complete the race, but could be dangerous, I decided to hire a coach who had already done multiple Ironman distance races. So he brought that knowledge to me and then customized the training for what my goals were. And my goal was just to finish. But with that in mind, he worked out a plan for how to approach my training so that I could finish safely. And I didn't have to try to research every little thing like, okay, how many calories do I need when I'm training or when I'm racing? What speed should I be completing the marathon portion in order to finish in time? Like, he had all that worked out. So it sort of helped me jump ahead and not have to worry about every single little detail, and then just focus on my training with that goal in mind of just finishing.
Yes, it sounded like it really accelerated what you were doing, because you didn't, and also you were working a full time. And so it's not like you wanted to spend your entire day, every single day, figuring all of this stuff out.
No, that is such a good point, because I am not a full-time paid triathlete. I just did not get paid to do that. That was not my job. If that was my job, certainly I could put a lot more of my own time into that, but it wasn't my job. So I just needed someone to help me, like I said, like not die, make it safe, but also know enough to be able to complete what my goal was.
And if I think about the book coach that I was working with earlier this year, her name is Tiffany Hawk. She was on the podcast back in December of last year. And I hired her because I had this specific need and a specific goal. I wanted to get my book proposal done. And I knew she was an expert in this. She had experience doing it. And I knew that it would accelerate the process because, like, to your point, I didn't have to go research every single little thing. What goes into a book proposal? How do I write this section? Now, of course, there are lots of blog articles out there about it. I'm sure there are even books. I know that there are books about how to write a book proposal, but I didn't want to have to go through all of that on my own. I really wanted to shortcut the process because I have a lot of other things going on in my life and my business. And then also, not just the expertise, but the accountability. I know that for me, if there's someone else waiting for something that I'm supposed to do, it's kind of like turning your homework into a teacher. I am much more likely to adhere to their deadlines and to adhere to any deadlines I impose upon myself.
Oh, most definitely. Same thing with the triathlon coach. When I knew he would be looking at what I posted in my training plan of what I completed that day or that week, when I knew that, then I said, oh, I have to do this, or at least get reasonably close to what he told me I should be doing.
And so if we think about then what we do as speaking coaches with our clients, it's really along the same lines. We are experts in what we do because we've been doing this for a very, very long time. And we've worked with hundreds now of women entrepreneurs and professionals over the years. So we have gotten really good at identifying the best ideas and the best stories for our clients to focus on in their talks. And we use the framework that I created, this is probably about 5 years ago now, to create the talks. So if you think about other coaches that are out there, the best ones have frameworks or have some type of process that they know that they take their clients through, that it's repeatable. Because if you're working with clients and you're kind of just helter skelter, like working one way with one versus another way with another one, as a coach or consultant, things are probably going to fall through the cracks because you don't have a process or a framework to make sure like all these different things are getting checked off as you're working with them. So I know our framework, our Signature Talk Canvas framework, has helped so much. So when we're talking with our clients, say in a VIP day to create their signature talk, what they say to us all the time is that they have so many things in their head, so many ideas in their head, or they don't know which ideas are the best ones, which ones will resonate with audiences, which stories they should go with, if they even have any good stories. And so it's our job as coaches to pretty much ask them the right questions, identify what those threads are, and then keep pulling on them. Diane, I know you've been doing a lot of VIP days recently for women who are in our Thought Leader Academy. What are some things that you've noticed as you've been working with from one to the next?
So you might say I've been on a marathon of an Ironman, if you will, of VIP days. So some of the things that have come up, often it's this idea around, I don't really have a story, or is my story even meaningful enough? And then we get into, the client starts to share these details of the story with me. And we do always eventually find that one thing that is that nugget that can impact the audience in a bigger way. So that's one thing that comes up a lot. Another thing that comes up is the sense of having like you mentioned, all these ideas. I've got all these ideas. It's like, it could go this way, it could go this way. Maybe this idea. And so I always tell them at the beginning of the VIP day, this is a time to literally dump it all out on the table. So at first it seems like a mess, and it's supposed to seem that way because you're really just shaking all the ideas out of your head, getting them all on the table. And then as we're going through them, I am starting to see the different connections. And so then I might present like, hey, what about this one idea that you mentioned? And then that leads to something else. And that's how we sort of have the idea sort of start to gel and take shape. But it does feel messy as we're doing it. Now, that's better to feel messy when you're working with me than to feel messy on your own, because then often our clients can't make heads or tails of it because you're by yourself, you're just knocking all those ideas around and you can't figure out which way to go. So, but that comes up all the time, is this idea of like, I have all these ideas and now how are we going to make sense of them? And I always assure them it's okay. Like, let's get them all out and then we'll put them together and see what starts to gel.
It reminds me, I was working with a client on a VIP day not too long ago, and she is very well credentialed, very experienced in her industry, in her field, and very highly regarded. And she had about 3 different ideas that we could focus on for her talk. And they were 3 separate ones. So 3 separate through lines. It wasn't really going to make sense to mix them together because they were separate ideas. And as she explained each of them to me, and I kind of talked a little bit about her background with each one and why each one was particularly meaningful to her. And again, any of the 3 could have worked. And I said to her, well, I'm going to share with you what I think will make you the most marketable as a keynote speaker. You could do any of the 3. It is still up to you because obviously this is your talk. But as far as what's going to make you most highly wanted as a keynote speaker, this is the one of the 3. So it's up to you. So, and then we decided to go in that direction because I said, what is your goal with this? Is your goal to persuade your audience with XYZ? Or is your goal to be a highly regarded paid keynote speaker? And she said, well, I want to do both, but I know it's the latter. Like, that's what she wants to do. And I said, okay, then let's go with the idea that's going to make you the most marketable.
Yes, that comes up a lot too. Yeah.
And that is something, as speaking coaches, because we're in this industry, we see so many talks and of all different topics, all different industries that our clients are in. And we go to so many conferences, virtual, in person, starting again. And so we see these all, and we have a very good sense, not just kind of an intuitive sense, but a well-honed sense of what makes a speaker marketable and what makes a good topic and a topic on trend. So I feel like it's a sense of validation. So identifying the best ideas and stories, validating that they have a great idea. That's the other thing. They feel like, oh, so everyone else has already talked about this before. And yes, most topics exist. Most topics
exactly.
People have talked about. And that's why your own personal stories and your own personal journey is so integral to your talk, because that's what makes it unique and different. Not just here, I'm going to teach you XYZ on this particular topic. So we had this idea of validation of their ideas, integrating their stories, using our framework, and really giving them that boost of confidence that we believe in them and that we believe in their idea. And I think back to my book coach, Tiffany, and she had to do this for me as I was working on the book proposal because I suffered the same thing that our clients do because writing a book is not my natural strength. I'm a speaker much more than I am a writer. And so for our clients, they enjoy speaking, but that's not what they spend all of their time doing like we do. And so Tiffany, I would kind of be like, oh, everyone's already written books about this, you know? And so what am I going to add to this conversation? And she would remind me, and she would say, no, Carol, you have something important to say in your own unique way. And that's why we need a book about this. So she would continue to provide me with that validation and that boost of confidence.
That's such a good point because I find that this confidence comes up a lot, not just in our VIP days, but also in the Thought Leader Academy when we're, talking about things there. And I think it's just a natural inclination to, well, maybe because of the patriarchy, to doubt ourselves. But that's maybe one of my favorite things about the VIP days and about the Thought Leader Academy is all of us working together to instill the sense of confidence in a woman and her message and the power that it holds. Because I think it feels like we should, like you said, there's so much out there, so many people are speaking, and then we have the patriarchy. And so we're questioning ourselves. Is it good enough? Am I good enough? Is it going to matter? Maybe nobody will care. And maybe our clients that we work with sometimes don't have confidence in speaking. Maybe they haven't done that much speaking. And so it's, do I have the confidence to get on a stage, to speak in front of a group of people? So I love working with the women in our Thought Leader Academy and our clients to help them know that they can do this and that it gets easier the more you do it. And that the more you hone your message, the more you believe the message, the more your audience will key into the message and the more meaningful it will be for them. So that confidence issue is so important.
And this is what I love about our group calls on the Thought Leader Academy is because the women are so supportive and encouraging of each other. And Diane, you know that we've been doing one-on-one coaching and one-on-one VIP days for years now. We've also run group programs, and it really is the Thought Leader Academy where we put them together, the VIP days with the group aspect of it, because we see there's so much benefit to both. We need the VIP days to that one-on-one time to really develop the client's talk, but then doing that without the group aspect, without the Thought Leader Academy, yes, they can get their talk done, but I feel like having that group, they get so much more of that confidence, the sense that they are part of a community of women's voices who are lifting each other up, and that extra sense of confidence that we can give them one-on-one, but that they get almost exponentially as part of the group.
Oh, well, most definitely. And then, one woman will post, hey, I just did so-and-so, and the other ones come in and cheer her on. And I think then everybody feels like, oh, I can do this. Like, okay, we can all do this. And so it is a sort of a collective confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about different types of coaches, specialty coaches, what we do as speaking coaches when we work with our clients. And it's really helping them create their signature talk from beginning to end, whether they're focusing on a lead generation talk, they want to go to conferences and events and generate leads and clients from their talks, or planting those sales seeds in there and making sure that the content drives to their offer. Or we're helping them with their signature talk, which is more of a keynote style because it's less for lead generation, even though there's always sales seeds planted even in keynotes, but it is a little bit more of the big picture thought leadership message within their keynotes. So we help our clients do that from beginning to end. And as we tell them, you all are smart, ambitious, very capable, very competent women. We know you could do this on your own. We know because you've created talks, you've created presentations, you've delivered them, but you don't know what you don't know. And by working with us, we help you because this is what we live and breathe this stuff all the time. Storytelling, script writing, 3-act story structure, how to put sales into your messaging without it sounding like a sales pitch. This is what we do all of the time. So it's so much easier to get that done in a 3-hour VIP day than agonizing over it for weeks and weeks on end and constantly wondering, is this talk good enough? As far as when do you need to hire someone like us? When do you need to hire a speaking coach? And here's what I hear from our clients is that there's a couple of different reasons why they decide to work with us and enroll in a Thought Leader Academy. Is that they have an upcoming talk, or maybe they have a few talks coming up on the calendar, say later in the year, and they really want to make sure they do a great job on them. Maybe they just got invited to do their first keynote address. and they want to make sure that they hit it out of the park. Maybe they have some conference sessions and they really want to hone the lead generation in their talk so that they get better results from what they're doing. So they have upcoming important talks. That could be one reason. The other reason is that they're doing speaking and they know that they're going to keep having talks come up either in person or virtual. But like we talked about before, they have lots of ideas and can't decide which direction to go in. Maybe the presentations they've been doing up to this point have been okay, but they know they could be so much better. They doesn't really feel like them. Feels a little bit too training, and they want to do something that feels more like them, that it's more inspirational, motivational. They want to up-level their speaking, with whether it's their delivery skills or adding the kind of emotions, humor, even multimedia into their talks. They really want to move from just instructing to inspiring, what we call getting out of the expert trap. So shifting from this idea of being an expert presenter into a story speaker and to a thought leader. Diane, I know you just interviewed a couple of women on the podcast who you work with in the Thought Leader Academy. Can you tell us a little bit about why they decided to work with us? What was the trigger for them to decide to work with a speaking coach?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would just want to add one thing to what you mentioned. Sometimes it comes up too that they've been speaking, but now, I'll be speaking to this audience that's full of my ideal client. Now I need a talk that really works because this is an opportunity, right? So with the clients that I recently interviewed for our podcast, one was Jill Janecke, and Jill is a counselor, a therapist, a mental health counselor. And so she has grown her practice with, I think, 15 locations throughout the state that she lives in. So she's really dialed that in, and she holds her own conferences. She actually puts on a conference that is her own conference when she has speakers, but she also is the keynote speaker for that conference and then also does breakout sessions. So I think she just did her second annual of that conference. So at the first one, she did speak at the conference, but I think she realized that she really wanted to take things to the next level and start to move more into being the thought leader in the face of her company that does speaking at her conference, but in other places as well, and get paid to speak and make that a revenue stream. So she knew she needed to get to kind of the next level of visibility and the next level of speaking and have her message be more dialed in so she could start to attract paid speaking opportunities. So we worked together in her VIP day to help her create the talk she was going to deliver at her conference. That was going to be the keynote talk. And then she could use that and start to pitch herself to speak in other places. And so she has actually been getting other speaking engagements now that she's sort of worked on her talk, refined her message, gotten it out there. She's created her speaker page on her website, which I'm so excited about. She has a speaker reel. So she's really taken what she's learned in the Thought Leader Academy and applied it to create her visibility plan, her message, pitching herself, all of those things.
And then you recently also interviewed Cindy Rowe.
Yes. So Cindy she operates in the marketing space. So she helps businesses with their marketing plans. So she understands that kind of inside and out. But she had an idea to go from, she does all the talks of training and training people in marketing, and that's great. And she likes that. But she had this idea of wanting to go beyond that to be more of the thought leader, to take on more of a thought leader presence and to do more keynote talks and yes, get paid to do them. But she had this interesting idea of bringing something that had impacted her life, which was kindness, into the business realm and help people understand how kindness can impact you, not just on a personal level, but on a professional and business level as well, and how it can be part of your business. So when we worked in her VIP day, we worked on taking this idea of kindness and connecting it to her talk and connecting it to her message and to business. So she could help business leaders see how they could bring kindness in, and it actually has bottom line results, not just makes you feel good, but it also has bottom line results for your business.
And Diane, that's a great example, the work that you did with Cindy, of as outsiders to your business and as outsiders to what's going on in your head, we can see things, we can see the connections between the different threads in your life, your career, your stories, that is oftentimes hard for you to see because you're too close to it, just like I'm too close to all the ideas in my own head.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because I remember Cindy saying to me, I don't really understand how's kindness going to matter for a business owner. And so then we talked about it, and talked through some things. And I said, okay, here's how I see that it is important. So I laid out what my ideas were that I thought she could talk about. And so then as we started to talk about it, she's like, oh, okay, yes. This is how it's going to matter to that audience and why they're going to want to hear this message.
This is also a good point to make about our coaching style. So like there's different kind of styles of coaching, different kind of ends of the spectrum. There's one end of the spectrum of coaches who will only ask their clients questions and never provide any insights or recommendations from the coach. And that is fine. There's definitely a time and place for that. I think that's especially for life coaching, because you truly do want to pull out from the person any limiting beliefs, what do they want, et cetera. But what we do, I kind of classify it more as coaching consulting, because yes, we ask lots of questions. Everything that ends up on the person's board for their signature talk is their content, it's their stories, it's their language. But we also are there to present our recommendations, or again, like, okay, if you go this direction, here's a possibility. If you go this direction, here's a possibility. So we are very much an active thought partner with our clients when we're working with them.
Yes, I love that part of it, because it does get to that idea that a client might come to the VIP day or to the Thought Leader Academy with a few ideas and not quite sure how to pull them out or how to tie them together or how to connect them to the bigger message that they have. And yeah, we can ask them a bunch of questions, and we do. We ask them a ton of questions. I always tell them the VIP day is going to be me asking you a bazillion questions and you talking. But I also like that we then, especially if a question comes up and they're unsure, we can guide them because we do have that experience. We do have that knowledge. So we bring what we know to their ideas and sort of direct them in a way that we know will help them craft a talk and a message that's going to have a bigger impact. So it's all their ideas, but with guidance from us on how to put those ideas together.
Exactly. And I know you love, just as much as I do, especially on a lead gen talk, coming up with an acronym or an alliteration for their framework.
So much fun.
And I think about one of our other clients, Chanta Wilkinson. She went through our Thought Leader Academy last year. She was also on the podcast last year. And the reason she decided to join was because she had recently started her DEI consulting business, and she knew that she needed to be able to differentiate herself from other DEI consultants that were out there. And so she knew that her thought leadership was going to be incredibly important to do that. And we helped her integrate personal stories into the trainings that she does. So she gets paid to do trainings for organizations. And you would think, well, they just want to learn the lessons and whatever happens to be. And we said, oh, there is definitely a place for your personal stories. And you can hear about that on that podcast episode we recorded last year. And now she has had so much success with the organization that she works with. They keep asking her to come back. She gets referred to other ones.
Yes. She's even within organizations, she'll train one level, let's say the leaders, and then they'll say, hey, can you come back and train our volunteers? Or can you come back and train our staff or whatever? So she is getting she's getting repeat business because they love her so much. And it is because of that, her stories humanize her and her message to that audience. And because the work she does in DEI with them, when she uses her personal stories, it really illustrates those ideas from a human perspective.
And then one more client I'm thinking of is Usha Tarari. She went through our very first Thought Leader Academy, and she was one of our speakers at our Brave Bold Beyond Live Virtual Summit in 2020. And Usha is a very, very strong, compassionate, fierce advocate for Alzheimer's research and education, because very sadly, her mother had Alzheimer's and actually passed away not too long ago. And so Usha went through our Thought Leader Academy so that she could be a better advocate for that cause. She goes on TV, she has a podcast, she does other podcast interviews, and she does speaking engagements for that. So most of our clients are entrepreneurs. So they're doing their speaking for their business, but we also have women like Usha who are doing this on behalf of the cause that they support.
Yeah, I love the idea that Usha recognized how important her message and her speaking and her stories are to the work that she does. And so she was able to take what she learned in Thought Leader Academy and incorporate that to make an even bigger impact with the work that she does with Alzheimer's.
Well, this wraps up this particular episode. Make sure to stay tuned, because the next episodes, we are continuing the series on wealth that we're doing. Next week, we're going to be talking about the ROI of investing in a speaking coach with one of our clients who went through the Thought Leader Academy. So what that looks like for her. And then the episode after that is going to be how to increase your speaker fee. fees so that you literally make more wealth. Diane, thank you so much, as always, for the incredible work that you do with our clients. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, it is truly my pleasure, and I feel so fortunate that I get to work with them.
If you would like to get information on how you can join our Thought Leader Academy, you can get all the details and apply by going to speakingyourbrand.com/academy. Again, that's speakingyourbrand.com/academy. Until next time, thanks for listening.